UConn lost their second round game in a battle against number one seed Florida. UConn was in control of the game. You thought UConn was going to show their championship DNA, but whether it was some offensive lulls or some elite shot making by guys like Walter Clayton, Florida was able to escape with a 79-77 victory in that one. And obviously, post game, there's always going to be Dan Hurley quotes, Dan Hurley, everything after the game. So there's video of him walking to the tunnel, and as he's walking to the tunnel, he basically looks over at Baylor, who's playing the next game, and says, I hope they don't fuck you over like they fucked us over. Excuse my language, but that's what he said. Basically talking about the referees, insinuating that he did not get the calls he deserved. He follows it up by having like a post-game press conference and an interview too, where he's like, he's crying and he's talking about how he loves his guys, he loves his players. The season was really tough for them and all these other things, but it was two sides of the coin. It was like kind of okay, I'm upset, I'm crying because they didn't give us calls, and then like I'm emotional, I'm crying because I love my players, love my team, love my seniors, things like that. So I want to focus on the ref comment part of this. Dion, start with that, and what do you make of Hurley's comments about the refs fucking them over?
Well, what do you know what play he's talking? Like, what did they do?
So I'll be completely honest with you. Watching this game, I didn't like come away with a call that was like, oh, this like the rest were just hoeing UConn or anything like that. I thought UConn's offense stalled out. I thought UConn didn't box out on free throws, which hurt them. And there were some mental lapses. And also like even outside of that, Walter Clayton just did like Walter Clayton things. There wasn't nothing you could do. He was dotting them up. He was going crazy. I don't think it had anything to do with the refereeing in this basketball game. But I may be wrong. So I'll throw it to you. What did you think of the refereeing in this game?
I thought it was fine. If anything, I thought UConn kind of got the better end of it at times. So I mean, I saw the clip. It kind of threw me off. I mean, I do think Hurley. I said this. The Florida. Everyone watched the Florida UConn recap, but I said this on the recap. I think sometimes Hurley does stuff to protect his players from doing it,
Mm.
and you could tell the players got frustrated by the refs a lot in this game. There was a timeout sequence late in the game where I thought he was actually going to get teed up, but he was doing it so his players didn't argue with the refs because he had like two or three guys that were going at the refs and he yanked them all away, and then he was yelling at them. And I think sometimes these quotes or his antics are manufactured because a tech on Hurley doesn't hit the same as a tech on Solo Ball or Liam McNeely or Alex Caravan. And I'm not saying Hurley doesn't go too far. Sometimes he does, but one thing I noticed in this game is Hurley does things to protect his players from themselves. And this quote might have been that, where it's like, my players feel some type of way. Whether I agree or not, I'm going to make it seem like I do to everybody that will listen.
Yeah, and I mean, if to that theory, that credit, we're talking about Dan Hurley and his quotes right now, and not the missed box outs, and not the fact that they went 7 minutes or something like that of game time without making a field goal, which is what ultimately doomed them.
Yeah.
But I guess the discussion that's around this is, it's like he comes off the court and he's complaining, he's crying, like the childish way, right? Like, oh, the refs didn't give us calls, the refs screwed us, and then he has to follow up where it's like, you see the raw emotions of what he's went through this season with his players, saying how they made him a better person, a better man. Like he won two national championships with these guys. And it's not like NBA crazy town. It's like Hassan Diarra, with all due respect, it's like Hassan Diarra, Samson Johnson, Alex Caravan. Like those are like the group of core guys who he quoted like helped him through some tough times and like saved his life kind of. And I always like seeing that stuff. Having relationships with your coaches like that, that's always good to see. But it's just so hard to separate that from like the childish like wham 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 antics. So like how do you decipher between those two?
Yeah, I mean, I've said this a lot when it comes to Hurley. I'm not saying he doesn't go too far, but as someone that was a little eccentric within my like much shorter sports career, obviously, um, sports are an art, in my opinion. It's a different canvas than maybe you're used to seeing art be put on, but it's an art. It's a getaway for people. It's supposed to be our safe place. And within on all of that, I believe you're allowed to give raw emotion, whether it's right or wrong. The amount of I personally had to learn how to lose. I don't know how you were with losing as a kid, but there was a lot of times where other coaches or other people that were in buildings had to tell me to keep my head up because I like just hated losing the same way Hurley does. And I think that that's something that is okay. Like I think you're allowed to show your emotion. That's what art is for. Art is a place to put your emotions on a canvas or a paper or you mold it, whatever form of art you do. Basketball is also a form of art. So I have no issue with anything that Dan Hurley does. Do I think he takes it too far from time to time? Sure. But the premise behind what he's doing is just expressing his emotion through art. And I'm never gonna put somebody down for doing that. I love it personally. I think that's why people want to go play for him. And he defends his guys that way they don't have to. And I think that that's what makes a special coach. Like no one has to answer for their own actions because Hurley will answer for them.
Yeah, also I'm all for lashing out too. I'm a sore loser. So like I resonate. I'll blame anybody. I'll blame anybody that gets in the way. I'm fine with that. That's part of it. I think it's just this. People need to Dan Hurley is Dan Hurley. He's one of the best coaches in college basketball. So whatever you say about him, make sure you add that and start with that and then feel whatever certain way you want to feel about him. But uh this is who he is. Like, and many people think he's like some whiny crybaby douche, and at times he might be, but also like he's one of the best coaches in the sport. And we had this is the fun. This is my favorite game to play whenever we have Dan Hurley conversations because I listen to all of it. Like I hear people who defend him. I hear people who don't defend him. You and I are both college basketball fans. We both have our favorite teams. If we didn't have a coach, you actually don't have a coach. But if we both didn't have a coach and we had a choice of who we could hire, our first call is Dan Hurley, as should everyone else's. Like, let's not do this. It was fun too when he was like, "I'm the best effing coach in the sport. Don't turn your back on me." And everyone was like, "Whoa, you're not great in the Big East." Well, he also is one of the best coaches in the effing sport, and he has two national championships. And you can't just throw that aside. So, yeah, I honestly, I talk a lot about Dan Hurley, and I talk a lot about how he does have the little whiny antics, but at the same time back-to-back national champs or back-to-back national champs. So can't deny it. But y'all didn't get hosed by the refs. Let's just end with that. It is March, and that means that March Madness is upon us. And if you are looking for a place to play, Underdog Fantasy has you covered. Sign up and deposit using code SLEEPERS, that's code SLEEPERS, to receive up to $1,000 in bonus credit plus a free pick. Head over to Underdog Fantasy today and use promo code SLEEPERS to take advantage of this amazing offer.